guys, it's Kirsten with Sleeping on the Job podcast. And with me is Jennifer Earle, who runs the Facebook group In the Box Education. So, hey, Jen, say hi.
Hi.
So, let's just jump right into it. Well, one story real quick is I just got my first vaccine yesterday. Have
Ooh.
you have you gone down that road yet?
No, it's a little bit harder here in Canada to get the vaccine.
Yeah, they just released it to old people, so I qualify for that. So so my son got it a couple of weeks ago and he's like, it's no big deal, blah, blah, blah. I feel fine. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like, all right, it's going to be awesome, right? Whatever. So my kids' high school, of course, that they haven't been in a year and a half, but whatever. But their high school is right down the road and they were having a clinic. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go and do it. So the shot itself was fine. I didn't even feel it go in my arm. It's such a little prick.
Mm-hmm.
I have to laugh. Okay. So it was like, boom, boom, done. About 8 hours later, I had 15, 16, 17 headshots for this big company, whatever. And all of a sudden, I started feeling like groggy, like foggy. You know what I mean? Really
Oh,
foggy.
no.
And they were actually all nurses. There was like, 18 nurses there. So at least if something was going to happen, I'm in good company, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, I just feel heavy. I don't feel sleepy. I don't have a headache, but I feel groggy. Like I'm like, like walking with a wet blanket on, you know what I mean? And then I woke up this morning and my arm hurts. Like my arm hurts. And I asked for it in my left arm just because I'm left-handed, which is probably a ding dong move, but it was the one closest to my car window and they didn't want you getting out of your car. They just kind of like reached in and jabbed you. And so I was
Really?
like, yeah, they just literally rolled down the window
Oh.
and they were like, just like you would stab me. And then they're like, all right, go wait over there in your car. So anyway, but I guess now in hindsight, I'm glad I did my left arm, even though I'm left-handed, because I edit with my right hand.
Okay. Oh, jeez.
So, so at least I can like my left arm is just like bleh, like hanging there doing nothing, and my right arm is using the mouse to edit this kindergarten class that I just shot the other day. Okay, anyway, here nor there, vaccines. I have mixed feelings that I'm not even going to get into, but a lot of places are requiring them now. So
Yeah, pretty much. If you don't have it, you're pretty much going to stay in isolation anyways. So it's just harder, like I said, to get here because you have to be. Well, I think they just released it to 40 and up, so that does include me now. So
ooh, ooh, yep,
yeah.
I'm in the over 40 crowd. Yep. So it's just one of the, like my son just applied to colleges and got in and paid the deposit and yada yada, and the only way he can go in person if he's vaccinated, which he is. But
Wow.
every time I stop and think about it, I honestly I cry just at just life, just the world right now.
It has changed. Definitely. It has changed. But
I mean, the one thing that stayed the same is I loved being in isolation well before COVID. Like now I'm just living my best life because I don't feel bad about it.
now it's legit. You have to. You're
Now
following the rules.
I am following the rules, and my dog has never been happier. I walk him like at least a mile and a half twice a day, and so he's just like, "Mommy, this is the best."
That's awesome. Holy
So it's
cow.
awesome. Okay, so jumping into it, so I didn't even know about In the Box anything until I found your page.
Mm-hmm.
I think I stumbled across it. So, and I don't even know how long was it in existence before I found it. So how long have you been doing box photography and where did you get the idea?
Uh, it's been over, I think 3.5, almost 4 years now. I actually just started for photography itself. I picked up the camera probably 4.5, 5 years ago. Always just had like, your typical little Sony cyber shot, just, shot family photos for fun, right? And my husband took a beginner's course and I thought, hey, that looks cool. So I went to the University of YouTube and taught myself everything I needed to know.
I'm also a professor of the University of YouTube. So
Right?
yes, right.
I love YouTube for that. So
Yes.
many very informative things on there. So, anyways, I was scrolling around and happened to see this really cool photo of like people in a box, and it was put into a collage. And I thought, hey, I think we can do that because my husband's pretty handy with tools and wood and stuff like that. So I showed him the picture and I said, "Do you think we can build this box and just try it? Just, I mean, if it doesn't work, whatever. We're out a sheet of plywood. It's not a big deal."
Right.
And we thought, yeah, let's give it a try. So we went to the hardware store, bought a sheet of plywood, got it ripped in quarters, built it at home in our garage, and did our first shoot in the garage with my kids. Just nothing fancy. And I had so many comments from there, like, "How did you do that?" And I'm like, oh, I kept repeating the same thing over and over. And I'm like, this is silly. Why am I repeating the same things, like copying and pasting? I'll just make a small little group. If anyone wants to learn, they can, join my group. Well, that turned into now there's like 17,000 people in the group or something
That's
along those lines.
yep. That's
So,
how mine started. It's like
yeah.
talking about mini sessions, mini sessions. How do you run mini sessions? Mini sessions. How do you edit this? How do you edit this? Blah blah blah. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just make a group.
And then
And
it goes up.
right, and like 1 year later, we're at like 25,000 people.
It's crazy how quickly it grows. But yeah, that's pretty much how it started. Now I started researching after that, and it looks like some of these box photos, like some of them go all the way back to like 1989, 1990. So this is by no means my idea, and I saw the idea somewhere and I just kind of ran with it. I For the box itself, we just built it ourselves. Like we just looked at it and we thought, okay, we want a 4 foot by 4 foot. We want to be able to take it down the stairs and carry it. So we just came up with the dimensions and everything ourselves. And then that's again where people were asking me, how did you build it? So I made up a little, tutorial on how we did it. And I'm like, I'm I'm just gonna put it in the group. And then it's just gone from there. People have made ones that come apart using hinges and clips. Smart people like yourself use things like the Walmart box or the IKEA tabletops or the Calyx or whatever they're called. Those are,
So let me just interject real quick
yeah,
in case people have no idea what we're talking about, even though I'll put the cover photo as one of my box photos. But
sure.
so basically envision, people listeners, envision a box that's 4 feet by 4 feet and 2 feet deep with a back on it, a white back on it.
Hmm.
Now, you take like my first box fan, I think the first box thing I ever did, it might have been the guy that built it for me. A friend of mine's husband, is handy with tools. He's, just kind of a handyman, no license or anything, but handyman. And I said, "Hey, can you make me this box?" And I wanted it up on something so legs can dangle off and still be on white, So I have a white panel in the front and it's on wheels so I can move it about my studio. And I said, and I showed him one of your pictures and I said, "If you can build," or maybe it was the blueprint in your group. I said, "If you can build me this, I'll shoot your family in it for free."
I
So he's
remember
like,
that.
yeah, and his wife is like obsessed. She's always pimping out her husband to get photos and stuff. So it works for me because I always need stuff done. He just put a backsplash in my kitchen 6 months ago. So anyway, so he built me the box, and I said, "All right, they have what? One, two, three kids, mom, dad, family of five. Get your ass in the box. Two teenage girls and then a little guy." Now, and then what you do is you like click, 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 and then you stitch them together like the opening of Brady Bunch.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So, Alice is looking at, Mike, Michael's looking at Peter, so all your boxes interact. Now, my problem, and this is my problem, this is no one else's problem but mine, is I love all my boxes to like hardcore interact. So, like I'm trying to think for an example. Like I had one of the teen sisters laying on her back with all her hair hanging out, and then the girl below her is braiding the hair into the next box. You know what I'm saying?
So where every
So
box is someone is doing something to interact
to the
with the
next
box
to
in
the
front, or beside, either side, or above, or below, or
yes. So to edit my 9 image collage, like three, 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 so 3 rows of three, my average is about 6 hours of editing.
whoa,
I'm not kidding you.
that's a lot of editing.
That's a lot of editing. I'm kind of like a perfectionist. So there's that, warping all the corners into the exact corners. So you don't see this, that, and the other thing. But well, first of all, I like it all telling a story and how everything connects.
Hmm.
But if you think about it, let's go back to the braiding hair for a moment. So the first box is a girl in the box laying on her back with her hair dangling outside of the box. But then when you're putting the next sister in the box, now the dangling hair, the girl has to climb on top of the box and have her hair dangle into the box for the second shot.
That's if you're fortunate enough to have room on top of your box. We don't have that. So we have to go one step further here in our house. And I use green tape, which is easily editable. You can edit it out, but we have to put green tape so they can actually kind of picture or envision where the passing object or the dangling hair, whatever would be, is going to cross over because I don't have room on top of my box down in my basement.
Lordy. Oh my gosh. Like even something simple where I did a Valentine box with my daughter and her boyfriend a couple years ago. And in one, like if you imagine the box, she has her cheek up to the edge of the box, like offering her cheek to get a smooch. Then when I had to take pictures of her boyfriend, he has to kiss the opposite side of the box.
Hmm.
So you can line up his lips onto her cheek. So her cheek is on the left side of the box. He has to be on the right side of the box. So the two pieces of the box come together. So he's smooching her. But like you said with the tape, I think I had a little bit of tape too,
Yeah,
or something sticky like that.
you need that visual because it's when you're working with a 4 foot empty space. It, it's very hard to line that up afterwards. I guess you could say like you can do puppet warp and stuff like that, but the more you do any kind of moving around of objects, A, the more editing it takes, and B, the chances of it becoming a little bit distorted obviously starts to go up. So if you can get it right in camera, then that is ideal, obviously.
Yes.
Just like
Yep.
anything.
And yep. And so I'm always so I have a measuring tape at my ready. So for example, my mom has I wonder how many old ladies are in the box. There was several. There was like let's just say 7, 8, 9, over 80, over 60, ranging from 60 to 90, okay? My mom teaches knitting and they all wanted to get in the box with the knitting and how they, unravel the yarn and this and that. So they wanted to have one person with the yarn around their fists and then the yarn to go into the next box, next box, next box. And so I was like, okay, it's up 8 inches. And then when we did the next scene, I had to measure 8 inches and then hold the yarn to make sure it was taut.
Yeah.
But there's so much work going into it. One thing I did with a later shoot after I had a couple under my belt where I'm like, all right, I see how this works, is I actually drew just a real, I mean, like stick figure sketch of
Hmm.
3 by 3 by 3. And then I could kind of like, all right, in this one, I'm going to have dangling legs. So the box underneath it has to have the little girls on their tummies. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to get everything into Photoshop and realize, oh my
Oh,
gosh, the legs dangling down are dangling in someone's face. You know what I mean?
yes.
So now that I do a quick sketch, at least I have a guide that keeps me on track.
And it makes the shoot go quicker too, right? Because you're not standing there thinking, okay, what else do I want to do? What else do I want to do? You already have a plan on paper and you can actually show the family like here's my plan, here's what I'm thinking, so when you get your draft or whatever it is, this is going to be somewhat what you see, so that way they are kind of prepared in a way. Because when I first started, I just took bam 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 bam, just shot a whole bunch of pictures, and I would edit about 40 of them or so, just a really soft edit, just nothing fancy,
Yeah.
and send it to them and say, okay, pick your favorite 9. Because what I would choose and what they would choose were totally different.
Oh, I don't give clients the option.
And so I changed how I was doing that after I started doing more and more of them. I'm like, nope, this is not working. So then I started doing that where I would draw it out and they would have a rough idea of what they were going to get. And that was that.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one one really key thing that I try to, you know, mention to people if they're first starting out is have that idea in your head to start, because it really will help cut down the shooting time, and help explain to the families what's happening, because sometimes unless you have the actual photo there, which I would hope to goodness, if someone is doing these photos, you're doing it for a customer, they've already done them before, that they can show them an idea. But
Right.
unless they can visually see it, it's hard for someone to kind of grasp it. Like when you're talking, if you do wine pouring or when you're passing things over, like they don't quite understand how that's going to work when you're just dealing with one box. Like it.
Right.
So yeah, I found trying to explain it to them on a piece of paper made it really click to them, and it made the sessions go a lot quicker.
Yeah, and I do agree. So I always talk to people about spare parts. So I tell them all the time, especially with young children, I'll say, you're going to get your gallery. There's going to be spare parts in there. What that means is, maybe this is a real cute photo, but like two of the people are blinking. Why did you keep that picture? Well, I kept that picture because the little 2-year-old is crossing his legs perfectly where the other photo they're not. So I'm going to need these spare parts, which is the kid's folded legs, to bring into another picture. So it's just going to be in your gallery. So the same kind of concept with box photography is that sometimes I'm going to take 3 different ones that have nothing, no interaction. Nothing is going to be out of the border of the box. It's going to be a filler box. So sometimes I just need a box that doesn't interact with any of the other boxes. So
Yeah.
I might take them all laying on their bellies, or they're pressed up against the side or something like that, where I have a few different options of a box that if there's dangling legs above it, the dangling legs aren't going to interfere with what's in the box below it.
Cut anyone's head off.
I don't want to cut anyone's head off. And then and the other option too that's tricky is I like to have little kids holding on to the outside and peeking their head
Hmm.
out of the dimension of the box. But you have to put that on one of the inner boxes or else it's going to get cut off by the print
Yeah, exactly. So
or it's going to look bizarre. But there's
that's
so much to think about that you don't realize.
yeah, it's true. Like you, when you're shooting, you're like, okay, yeah, that's a great shot, that's a great shot. Then you go to put it together, and it's like, uh-oh, we have 3 or 4 where people have dangling legs, or this is not gonna work now. And then you've already finished your shoot, people have gone home. Then what do? You're kind of stuck. So when you have that little plan in your head, it makes it a lot easier. And then if you have some really super cute ones that don't quite fit into your 9 box collage, I have sent them off and said to the clients, like, here are some extra ones that don't quite fit in, but you might want to upgrade to a single, like a little 4 box, or even just a single, and then I can upsell from there.
Well, one thing you can upsell that's super cute that I did with my most memorable box, which I'll talk about in a second, is I said, um, these didn't make the cut, but they're still really cute. But for $10, I can make you a Facebook timeline cover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so she's like, "Oh my god, yes, 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 do it, do it." And I made it look like that they were like inside of the timeline cover, like it was you know what I mean? Like the cube was in the timeline cover. It was really cute, really cute. So, which brings me to my next topic, which I'll tell you mine and you tell me yours.
Sure.
So, my most memorable box was I had these 2 little kids and I owed mom something. Like she did something for me and I was going to do something for her. And I honestly forget what it was because it's a few years ago. So her kids were like 4 and 5, maybe. All right. So wear your Halloween costumes. So the little girl was a princess and the boy was Spider-Man. So I said, all right, cool. So I didn't want to use the 4x4x2 box because it was way too big.
Hmm.
So I had bought, like you said, the little Better Homes and Gardens Walmart bookshelf, and you assemble it without putting the crisscross of the bookshelf in the middle. So it's just the top, the sides, and the bottom and the back of a bookshelf. It was 20 $24, maybe, if that.
Hmm.
So it's a smaller version of the box. And I actually put it up inside my big box in case we had any dangling going on, which I don't think we did. Oh, maybe we did. I don't remember. So anyway, so they were in the little tiny box. So now there was no real negative space. The kids really took up the box. So I said to the kids, I'm like, okay, so you're a princess and you have your little wand and you're, whatever, and you're Spider-Man. So I want you to act like Spider-Man, like psh, with the net, put your hands out with the, the I love you sign or whatever it's called that Spider-Man, flings the
Yep.
net from his wrists or whatever. I want you to go psh. Now, the net is invisible. I can't see the net. So you're going to pretend that you're shooting the net, but because I'm going to add a little magic to this, the camera, when I take a picture and you look at the picture, you're going to see the web. And he's like, whoa. I said, just trust me. I hope it works. I think it's going to work. And I said, the same thing with you, Addie. When you take your magic wand and put a spell on your brother, you're going to go around, 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 poof. And I can't see it because it's in your imagination, but the camera, when it clicks and the light goes off and you look at the picture when I make it next week and you look at it, you're going to see the magic of the, whatever you call it, the, sparkles coming out of your magic wand. So the kids were so excited. Even after I was done, they're like, more, and I'm like, no, we've been here for an hour, but they were having so much fun. They didn't want to leave.
Of course.
So yeah. So one thing I loved that I got the idea either from you or just in your group was I did the little boy holding on to the edge in his Spider-Man costume, and then I rotated the box in Photoshop to make it look like he was Spider-Man up on a wall,
Yeah.
you know. So that was really, I wouldn't have thought to do that myself. So I had to hijack someone else's idea. So I put the boxes together in Photoshop and I merged it all together. And then I added in the Spider-Man web coming out of his hands and all the sparkles coming out of her magic wand. And so each box was just covered with overlays, with Photoshop overlays. But it was so stinking cute. And the kids literally were like out of their heads with how the camera was able to capture the imaginary magic.
The magic, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was just so fun. So that was like out of all the box sessions I've done, that has been my absolute hands down favorite one.
I don't even know what my favorite one. I think I have two favorite ones. One of mine is prior to taking my new job in November, I ran a daycare in my home for about 10 years. So at one point in the summer last year, I was known as the crazy lady on the street that every kid wanted to come to. So all neighbors at one point, like my house was full between daycare kids, my kids' friends, the neighbors coming over wanting to play. So I had one point had 11 kids, only 3 of them daycare, but the rest just my boys' friends coming
Right.
over. And I put them all in the box. So I had 11 kids in the box at one point interacting and playing and doing fun stuff. And it was the parents couldn't believe it when I was done. Like I didn't tell them I was doing it. It was just a spur of the moment. Everyone, they were either outside or in the garage or whatever. I said, everyone come downstairs, grab a toy, come downstairs. And I just threw something together and sent it out to the parents. And every parent was they were blown away by, the fact that I would do that for them and share something like that with them. So that was kind of a fun, special moment for the kids, to be able to see that put together and keep that as a memory for down the road. I mean, that was probably 3 years ago now, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
The other one I also really liked is, and this just goes to show you that you don't even have to build a box. Just kind of thinking outside of the box. I had patio chairs. They were like a gray fabric. They were boxy. So I put 2 patio chairs together that literally made a box. And I did a photo shoot out on my deck, natural light, no tripod, no nothing, just 2 patio chairs stacked together, and put a little kid in there and just took some pictures. And to this day, when I post it, people are amazed that it's patio chairs.
Right. So that reminds me, my friend Kara, floral and evergreen, if you're looking for floral halos. So my friend Kara just did a cardboard box.
Hmm.
and the kids were interacting with the flaps, you know what I mean, like kind of peeking out or doing this, doing that, and just merged them together. And there's not even really super interaction between the boxes. So the kids are all pretty much looking at the camera or just being silly. But it was just one of the cutest things I've ever seen in my whole entire life.
Yeah.
Like it was so cute.
It's something simple, but you know what? It just I'm one of those people that it doesn't take a lot. You don't need a lot of props to make the picture. It's the people, the person in the picture that makes the picture. So yeah, I'm the cardboard boxes. I think are quite cute. Anything like that. So yeah, that was one fun thing I've had, and
That's a lot of fun. So
yeah.
let's talk tech. You just reminded me that I wanted to mention this. So the technical part of it is, so shooting with a tripod is key
Hmm.
for the most part, unless you're outside just being, you know,
I did use a patio
living.
table.
Well, there you go. So that's a tripod. I was going to say you're just playing fast and loose.
I was,
But
yeah, it was kind of a half-assed table, but still, it just kind of helped
nonetheless,
me hold my spot where I was when I had to position him. But
yes.
um, yeah, any other time, tripods are 100%. It doesn't need to be a super expensive tripod. It just needs to be something that holds the camera in
So
place.
the tripod is key. So
Yes.
the reason why is, so you're going to line up your camera and your tripod where the interior, top, bottom, left, and right of the box are all equal to each other.
Hmm.
Okay. So you don't want to see too much ceiling or too much floor. And then when you're looking at the box, it looks wonky.
Yeah.
So you want to look like you're looking at it head on in each box. So, like for me, I put my camera, or I walk away from my camera quite often if I'm like, okay, now hold the hair like this, or I'm
Mhm.
measuring where the yarn needs to go, or I'm doing this and doing this. And so if you're walking away from your camera and if you go back to take a picture and you're not in the exact position, it just makes editing a nightmare.
Oh, does it ever?
Like a horrible, horrible nightmare. And the one thing that I always teach when I'm, teaching my classes for, whatever, wherever I'm teaching them, is you need to think about your dollar per hour here. Like, you don't want to spend time fixing things. Photoshopping things is one thing. Fixing things is another thing. You don't want to fix anything. You want to just Photoshop.
Exactly.
And I think you'd be fixing. I think it would be just a straight up nightmare if you were. I don't even think you could fix if you were like too much floor, too much ceiling, too much this, because then the horizontal and vertical lines aren't going to match up.
You can. Because I used to edit for people. I don't do it as much anymore because of my new job. But it was 2 Christmases before COVID hit. I was editing for a bunch of people, like tons and tons at night and on weekends.
Oh my God, you could not
Some
pay
of
me
them you
enough.
could tell were fairly new because they didn't quite grasp the concept of making sure that the focal point, like your camera is focused right or lined up right in the center of the box. So you have equal on all sides, like you were saying. So they had it so maybe the left side was more than the right side. But when you put it together, everything looks wonky, but there's no way of fixing it because as soon as you try to distort it or move it,
Nope.
obviously your people are going to distort with that. And there's just no fixing that
No.
after you've done it. So
No.
lining things up is, though it seems kind of like, oh well, I mean that's obvious, it may seem obvious, but it is critical to make these
Yes.
pictures go
So
as
another thing that's critical is not having it on auto white balance.
mm-hmm.
Not, not, not. I say it all the time in every group that I'm in. You cannot, auto white balance is pretty much the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
And people, and in the studio even more so, because outside the sun does change, you know what I mean? So like whatever, but in your studio, auto white balance is the worst thing you can do. And they're like, why? Who cares? I'm like, with an auto white balance, every picture you take has the potential of being slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
Just slightly different. So if you're trying to edit And in the box is white, right? Most boxes are white. So you don't want one box to be slightly magenta, one to be slightly green, one to be slightly blue, one to be slightly warm. You know what I mean? It just, you want to be able to batch that shit, boom, like sync
Yes.
and highlight and synchronize or whatever. You want it to be quick. So no auto. Set a custom white balance, or if you're Kelvin 5600 or whatever it is.
Exactly. And all
You
with that also, when you're talking about settings, one of the key things I learned, again, a lot of this for me was trial and error, because when I started it, there were no Facebook groups, just so everyone,
right.
it's like, there was no Facebook groups out there. There was no, documentation. There was no blueprints, nothing. I learned everything trial and error and started the group, and now obviously people learn from that. So one of the big things I learned was put your f-stop up to, I think I usually shoot at a 9 or so, and then that way you're not having to constantly move around your little focus box to focus in on someone's face. But then if someone's behind them, they may be out of focus ever so slightly. And so I found just making that f-stop a little bit higher, well, quite a bit higher, it kept everyone and everything in focus. So that,
I do the same thing. F8 is my go-to.
yeah. No, one thing, I was shooting with my Sigma Art 35, and then I did switch over to my 2470 and was shooting, because I have a bigger basement, so I was able to back up more. And I found that really helped with the dangling legs, because obviously the closer you are to the object, when the legs are hanging down, the foot hanging down over the next box, the foot is actually bigger than the head in the next box, if you can picture that
Yes.
from the way your lens takes it. So I found if I was able to back up and use my 2470, and I think I was shooting more along the 50 to 60 area,
I think I used my 50 millimeter lens. Yeah.
and that helps, so it doesn't look as off. Like, it doesn't look like the person above has these big huge clown feet, and then the person
Right.
below is like Beetlejuice.
Yes. I know. It totally. That's exactly. Yeah. You got to be careful with the lens distortion.
Yeah.
So, okay. So for shooting, okay. So the last thing we haven't mentioned is lighting. Okay.
Mhm.
So I think we both use strobes, right? And
Oh,
I
yeah.
use I have an Einstein, but I use my 86 PLM
Okay.
when
I
I'm,
actually use, I don't have a strobe, but I have a speed light, and forget what it's called. But was using a 48-inch octagon softbox. So I we're just like a little kind of on the side photography business. So I couldn't really afford the Einstein. Plus, it's American, so add on
yes,
Canadian taxes and shipping. You might as well sell a kidney for that. So
yes.
we use I think it's a Godox speed light, and I put
Yeah.
it in my huge octagon softbox, which is directly behind me, and I was shooting at, I think it was 1/2 power, maybe
So,
quarter. But I shoot
okay.
in my basement, so it's depending on what time of the day it is, it can get pretty dark down there, and our stupid basement has pot lights, so I have to shut them off. So I needed a strong light, because obviously when it's dark down there, you need to have something.
Yeah. So you need to have a light. But one thing I found that was just easier, because people I see in the group all the time, how do you edit all these shadows? And I just want to like cringe. You don't want to fix shadows. You want to not have shadows
Mhm.
if that's your goal. You know what I mean? So my light, I have, so I'm 5'4", so the light is probably 5'10" in the air. Like it's just higher than me, I feel like. And it's slightly angling down, like slightly. You know what I mean? So the light is a little bit above me and I'm angling it into the box.
Yeah.
So if you have it slightly higher angling down, it pushes the shadows down instead of, if imagine if like flat lighting where the light is lower, it's going to put the shadows behind them.
Yes,
You know what
exactly.
I mean? And you're going to see the shadows. So you don't want to see the shadows. But I do put the light slightly off to one side just so I'm not tripping over it. That's the only reason.
Yeah, well, yeah, you have a much bigger, the PLM is a much bigger system than what I use. So mine doesn't really get in the way, and I was actually using a trigger to take the pictures anyway. So because I knew once it's on, the camera's on, I lock it, I forget it, like, and now I can use my trigger, so then I'm not blocking any of the light shooting at the box.
Right, exactly. Well, that was my point, is I didn't wanna block any of the
Yeah.
light either, but it's literally, like, touching my shoulder. It's right to my left or right to my right, whatever. So it's pretty much straight on, which does cause flat lighting. Now, in any other type of photography, they always tell you, don't flat light, shadows are good, blah, blah, blah." But I feel like with box photography, flat lighting makes editing so much easier.
Yes.
So much easier because you can kind of put the boxes anywhere. But then, like with little Spider-Man, when I wanted to rotate the box and have him hanging upside down, it actually wasn't super obvious that the box was turned. Where some people, when they flip the box, you can see it because there's so much shadow on the bottom and
Yeah.
light on the top, and then all of a sudden there's light at the top, shadow at the bottom. And so it's like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, you flipped, you flipped that. Actually, the first time I saw someone flip it, I was like, that box is flipped. The lighting doesn't line up. And then I was like, oh, I see what they did. And then I went and copied it with Spider-Man, and it was like super adorable. But the flatter and more evenly lit the light is, the easier it is to like flip, rotate,
Yeah.
and not screw things up. Okay, so now we kind of talked about the tripod, having a measuring tape or sticky note or a sticky something or other to mark, where you're going and this and that. Tripod is imperative. That's like a lot of the prep work, prior to shooting, right?
And one thing I also learned is, again, trial and error. A lot of people tend to shoot landscape version, so like your normal hold your camera normally, but with the box, because you have quite often have feet hanging out and dangling. I found that if you shoot in portrait, so when you get it on your tripod, flip it so it's in a portrait style, you're not you don't have all this white or blank space around that you're cropping out, because you can pretty much like set it so the whole entire box plus where your feet are going to dangle are filling that whole frame. So
So I also shoot vertical because if you think
yeah,
about the stand that the box is on,
yeah.
and then the box is vertical.
And some people don't quite grasp that. They're like, well, I normally shoot like, like a normal, like landscape or normal, like, but when you think about how your box is set up and how you have the extra below, you don't want to have all that wasted space that you're cropping out, because then you're losing pixels.
I was going to say you're compromising pixels. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was going to say that. Okay, so if something else um, pre, we'll add it back in. But now let's talk about post.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously have it right in camera. But
Yeah.
one thing. So I use Lightroom to batch my box stuff.
Me too.
I batch them into JPEGs. I shoot raw, I should say. Clarify. I shoot raw. I batch them into JPEGs, and then I look at each JPEG just real quick, and then I do, acne or stray hairs or scuff marks on the box, and then I'll quickly in Photoshop like just go through and touch them up real quick.
Yeah.
Then I go nuts. So one thing with the batch editing that has helped me a lot is you can actually, and I forget what it's called, because actually now I do it in ACR, but I did do it in Lightroom. It's the same thing. But there's a box there's a box you can check that makes sure all your vertical and horizontal lines are vertical and horizontal.
Oh, that's tricky. I don't know if I know that one.
For real, for real, for real.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to go and spend time looking for it. I have Photoshop open right in front of me, but so there's a button. So anyway, so if you're looking at the box, the top of the box, the bottom of the box are horizontal lines, and the left and right are vertical. And then also interior wise, there's line, 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 the back box, right?
Yeah.
So when you click the button in either Lightroom or ACR, and usually there's not that much that needs to move because you've already, you're using a tripod, everything is already mapped out, everything is
Yeah.
already fine. But it just kind of like just triple checks that all the lines are vertical and horizontal.
Huh. Well, I'm
So that,
have to check that.
yeah, so that just saves me, a hot second from warping the edges into the corner. Because even, most boxes aren't you
Absolutely
know,
perfect.
yeah, I mean, down to the
Yeah.
millimeter. I mean, they're really kinda not, kinda not, kinda thing. So when I merge all the boxes together, if you zoom in real close, you can see that it's not quite square to the square. So
Y-
then you can warp and just go pull and just boop, bring it up into the edge. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You
So
find that more if you actually build it. Like I find the plywood box, because it will warp more like as it sits. It also could be that it's in our basement, which is a little bit damper, but yeah, it's warped. So every single one I just do manually. I quickly distort it and line it all up, but if I find that button, that will help.
that will help. It saves, it just saves me like, just 2 seconds, just to like, just to make sure.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about a little bit. So put a pin in all that. Let's talk a little bit about your Etsy shop, which is the passive income part of the group. Because let me tell you what, I'm the admin of, I think the last time I counted, it was 12 different groups.
Oh, jeez.
I know I'm a glutton for punishment. They're not all photography. Like I'm an admin of my high school graduating class. I'm the admin of that page. There's a Great Dane page I'm an admin of. Um, the mini session inspiration, my old simple swaddler one, which is now the wrapping togs. Anyway, there's tons of different, oh, and I'm one of the admins in your group, just,
Yep.
answering questions and just making sure no one gets rude and has to get booted
Yeah.
and whatnot. It's a thankless job.
Hmm.
Just putting it out there. It's a thankless job. Um,
Especially with the amount of work you put into it. Like you do so many YouTube like daily tutorials of helping someone has a question, you do a quick tutorial, for example, this podcast. You do
yeah.
so much. I kind of fell off of mine. I have tons of videos in mine like on the YouTube channel, and people can obviously go and watch them at any given time, but I don't do a lot of one-on-one, or if someone has a question I do like direct training to that
Wait a minute.
anymore.
What's your YouTube channel? What's the name?
I believe it's JE Photography Design. I don't 100% remember though because I don't click on it very often. But I think
JE
it's,
Photography Design. Well, we'll put it in the notes on
yeah,
the Sleeping on the Job podcast Facebook group page. And then mine, I want to figure out how to change it, but now it's out there so much that I'm like, well, if I change it, are people going to know where to find me? I don't know. But it's so Kirsten Page is my first and middle name. So it's Kirsten PG1. So Kirsten Page 1, basically. So that is my YouTube channel. So, but same thing. I make nothing off of the tutorials that I make.
yeah.
Nothing. Once in a blue moon, someone will tip me $5 or whatever. Rarely, and that's only happened like 3 times in the last since 2017. So sometimes it's nice to just get a little tip, whatever. But I do it just because it's kind of fun, gives me something to do. I like teaching people new tricks. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So, but being an admin and doing that, whatever, is a thankless job because a lot of times people don't even like, they'll ask me to make a tutorial and I'll make a tutorial and then they don't even comment, like, share, like nothing. It's like, oh, all right, well, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
They learned and that's satisfying. That's satisfaction enough knowing that they learned something new. But it's kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I try not to have the expectation of like, I don't need my ego stroked, although I wouldn't turn it away, but
But a
it's
thank you
fine.
is nice.
But a thank you is nice.
Thanks for
But
taking the time.
like all roads, what I learn in the marketing stuff is all roads need to point to what you actually do make an income from.
Hmm.
And for both of us, it's our Etsy stores.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about the Etsy stores for a minute. Mine, and again, I made mine years ago. So Dance Tog is mine, DANCETOG, because I'm a dance photographer, is where my passion is shooting dance. So Dance Tog is my Etsy store. And what is your Etsy store?
Again, it's JE Photography Design.
Okay, I knew that. I could have told them. So JE Photography Design, because I do refer people there. So talk about what box stuff you sell.
So I started with making just a few little basic templates that, because people were saying, "How do you do it? How do you do it?" So I made a few basic ones, and then people were like, "Oh, can you make it with 12 boxes? Can you make it nine? Well, sorry, 9 is the basic one, but can you make it like 24 boxes?" So I started making more and more templates. So what it is obviously your outer box, and then it has all the grid lines inside already put together, measured out perfectly. So all you have to do is drop your photos in, and then just use your masking tool to mask things off. So it's all measured out for you, ready to go, set up. And then I started also adding in extra. So in my Etsy store, I have a lot of other little photography related type templates. At Christmas time, my Santa ones are huge. So I have Santa in the box, which is actually my dad. And he got in the box, and I took a bunch of random, fun pictures of him. So people can buy the Santa in the box and incorporate it into their image. And sometimes it doesn't match 100%, obviously, because I built my box in its 4x4x2. If you have a different size box, then it may not look 100% the same. But on
But
the
it's
other
cute
hand,
enough.
I have never had a client's, for people that have purchased them, I've never had anyone come back and say, hey, my client noticed that this didn't match up. I'm not happy with it. Like most clients just see the overall, and don't see those fine details like we do as photographers. So I have those types of things. And then also I have digital backdrops as well in my store. But it started off with just a few of the basic white, I call them white grid lines or white templates. And yeah, my Etsy store has grown from there.
Yeah, I know. I have a lot of just um, basic stuff, and usually what sparks me to make something is it something I need and couldn't find.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I had a politician need headshots, and he sent me some inspiration, and it's like the typical military cop headshot where it had like the flag in the background and the blue mottled background, and someone's sitting there. And I said to the guy, I said, "Oh gosh, you know what? I don't have a flag in my studio, so I can't do this for you." And then I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. I can use a gel or whatever and make the background blue, and I have the mottled gray, and I can change it more blue, and I'll find a flag and do it digitally." And the guy's like,
Hmm.
"Well, that works. That works for me. If you can get it to look like this picture, that's good enough for me." So I was like, "All right, cool." So I looked on Etsy and I said, well, first I looked just like the normal, I don't know, PNG tree or, PNG flag, whatever. And none of them were exactly what I wanted. Most of them were like cartoony looking or digitally looking, or, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what he's looking for. It's not what I'm looking for. And then I went on Etsy and there was like one, but again, it looked almost like too perfect. It didn't look like just the normal flag like you see in the military photos. So I put on Facebook, I'm like, does anyone have a flag I can borrow? Like just like the kind that you see like in like elementary schools or whatever. And one of my friends said, yeah, I have one. Come get it. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I got it. I actually used it while I shot the guy because then I'm like, well, shit, I have the flag. I might as well
Yeah.
use it. So I took his pictures, blah, blah, blah. And then he left. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Click, 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 click. And I just took a bunch of pictures of the flag. I made it look real nice and I edited it and photoshopped it and whatever. And then I threw it on my Etsy store and I sold 3 last week.
Well, there you go.
Because it's like, well, shit, if I need a flag background, someone else probably needs a flag background. And,
That's right.
I don't want to go buy a whole flag if I don't need it, and
Because they're not cheap.
because they're not cheap. And then what I usually do with all the things in my Etsy store is when you get the PDF of the link to the digital image, you also get a link to the tutorial on how to use it, which circles back around to my YouTube channel.
Full circle. I
Full
don't have,
circle.
not all of mine have links to my YouTube and stuff like that again, because this has been like a 3.5 year, 4 year work in progress. But um, like I said, in the Facebook group, those links are always there. So, and obviously it's free to join the Facebook group. The YouTube tutorials are free. So you can always join, check them out. And, if you don't want to be active in the group, you can always, we don't want you to, but you could always turn off notifications and stuff like that. But I find that in these groups, people are very, very positive and reassuring in the amount of creativity that comes out of them. Kind of gets, especially this time of year, like when we're, I don't know what you guys are, we're back in quarantine, we're in lockdown again. So seeing people use their creativity and stuff kind of gets you a little bit more inspired and not so bummed out for a
Yeah, we're
situation.
not in quarantine, but in Massachusetts, we're still like masks
Oh,
24/7.
yep.
You know what I mean? Like my kids are just for the first time in over a year, like 13, 14 months, for the first time next Wednesday, they're going back in school.
Oh, our kids were in school and now they've turned it back to virtual schooling. So they've shut all the schools down here in Ontario again.
Well, the problem is also with my town, we're for some reason, I don't know why, we're in the red, where our numbers are astronomical and just continue to climb. I don't know what I don't know why how it's happening in my town, but like I feel like there's like 6 new cases a day.
Wow.
Like it's insane, insane, insane. So my kids both were kind of like, I'm fine with just staying remote, whatever. But my son is a senior and hasn't been to school since the beginning of his junior year.
Yeah, that's
You know what I
sucky.
mean? And it's sucky. And he kind of is like, it's fine, it's fine. And I'm thinking to myself, the only reason it's fine is because you literally don't know any different.
And you don't have a choice.
And you don't have a choice,
Yeah.
like I think back to my senior year. I'm not going to say too much because I know my mom listens to this podcast, but I was out with my friends 24/7,
Yeah.
just random doing, we would do town-wide scavenger hunts and, you know, just, go four-wheeling or whatever you call it, off-roading or
Yep.
whatever, just doing all this stuff and then, have a big bonfire and hang out and, whatever. My son has done none of that.
Yeah. It's sad, but again, just what can you do?
But, what can you do? And, I try to, we converted our whole entire attic into a man cave for him,
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so, before all our bedrooms were on the only level. My house is one level, but the attic is sick, right? So I just totally converted it with him, gosh, over a year ago,
Oh,
last
that's
March
awesome.
maybe. Yeah, so now he has like a total, he just got a big projector up there and, so it's pretty cool, like trying to make the best of a kind of a cucka situation.
Yeah.
But it has inspired me to do a lot of stuff in my Etsy store
Hmm.
where I don't make tons of money.
Yeah.
You
Me
know,
neither.
I
It's
don't make tons, but I
a
make
little
I
bit.
might make $50. No, I might make $100. No, I bet I make $200 a month.
I That's roughly what I sit at now. When November comes around, obviously that skyrockets because again, I have a lot. You'll find in my stores a lot of it is Christmas oriented because Christmas is like obviously one of the biggest um, photography, I guess, holidays. I guess you could say. So
Yeah,
I have a lot of Christmas related stuff in there. So usually around then it's mine skyrockets, and I quite often have a lot of sales. Like I don't make a whole lot on mine. Mine are very reasonably priced, as to are yours.
my Easter bunny was $5.
Exactly. That's a lot of my digitals are around $5-6. Now the grids are more again because they when I first started, I priced them at $20 Canadian. So in American, that's I don't know, probably what $14 or something. Because
Yeah, I don't know.
suck.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Um, Again, when I started my Etsy store, there were no stores that sold anything like that. So it obviously since I started and other people had joined our group, they've left and started their own groups, started their own Etsy stores. People are selling their own stuff, which is cool. I mean, good on you if you want to do that. But that's where my price point started because it did take me quite a while to figure out make sure everything was perfect and there was nothing to go by. So I was building everything from scratch with no examples. So that's where my price point started there. And then all the other little things that I started adding, I I make them very very reasonably priced. And everything in my store, well, I guess when you go into Etsy, you see it based on your your currency. So when I price it in Canadian funds. So it might be like $5. So if you're logging in from the US, it's going to be some weird price like $3.37. And you're,
Right.
why does she have weird prices? It's because I'm in Canada. So everything I price out is a nice even number Canadian.
Yeah. Okay, so two things real quick. We're right about ready to wrap it up.
Hmm.
I told you half an hour and it's been 55 minutes.
Good.
so, so I want to wrap it up. I'm going to put you on the spot here and feel
Oh,
free to say no, because then I'll just edit this out. But normally when I have guests on talking about, their stores or their, whatever they do, blah, 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 I'll ask them to make a coupon that's
ahead of you.
good for, it's good for one person one time.
All right.
So it's a one use coupon, because that way first come first, or first come first listen or whatever gets the best coupon. And then I also, if you want, to do like, my friend Floral and Evergreen will do one like amazing coupon at like 40% off one thing or whatever for one person. But then she has an ongoing, 10% off for all podcast listeners. So if you want to do either of those two things, I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to add one thing to tell my listeners.
Mhm.
So if you want to just think of a code real quick, and you can make the code after we say goodbye to each other, but think if you want to have just a coupon code for like, 20% off
Yeah,
one order for one
actually, I
person.
kind of thought about that before I joined on, and I did
Oh,
make
look at you.
a coupon code before we started this session, and I did it for 30% off for my
Ooh,
entire store, and the code is podcast30. So as long as you have that code, you can get 30% off anything in the store.
that's awesome. I started putting coupons on my tutorials for my Etsy store. So if someone's going to watch my tutorial,
They get a bonus.
maybe they'll go and have a little looky at my at my Etsy store. So that's been awesome. So the one thing I wanted to just talk real quick. So I had several weeks in between podcasts. Normally, I used for the last 2 years, it's been almost every week, like every Thursday, we release a new podcast. Well, then with quarantine and being shut down and dealing with homeschooling children and blah blah blah, it kind of got spaced a little bit farther along. Well, then in the last year, I've been working on another side hustle that has taken up an enormous amount of my time. However, so now I had to like hire an engineer, like find and hire an engineer. I had the engineer find and hire a mold maker. I had blah, 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 blah. So I had to do all of these things, which is, we're talking like 10 hours a day
Oh, wow.
of just working my ass off. So what happened, just a real quick backstory. What happened was 2 Septembers ago, I brought my off-camera flash, which I have an AD200. Now I have the Pro because my AD200 smashed. But I went to shoot in elementary school that was preschool through 8th grade. I set up my light. I got my camera. I had my kids sit down. I took one click of my camera and my light blew backwards and smashed in 100 pieces. And I was like, I thought I was going to vomit. Like, when you get all the adrenaline, you're.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. So prior to that day, it had fallen over a handful of times, but it always went forward where the softbox would just catch it like a big fluffy pillow. You know
Yep.
what I mean? It would just go boing and everything was fine. Well, this time it blew backwards and smashed, right? It's like, I don't know, it's like $300, right? The AD200. I have to look it up. Anyway, it's not cheap. So
And
I went,
that's your main source of light.
it's my only source of light aside from, the sun, but I like having a little off-camera flash when I'm doing volume photography just to keep everything consistent
Hmm.
for batch editing. But anyway, so I went home and I was like, okay, I need to buy something to protect the back of my flash. Like, that was like, oh my God, I have to buy a new flash now. So I started looking and looking and looking and looking and looking, and I couldn't find anything. So I asked a friend of mine, I said, well, what can I use to protect the back end? I got the softbox on the front end. What can I use for the back end? Oh yeah, there isn't anything. People break them and send them into me all the time. And I, sometimes I can fix them, sometimes I can't. I said, all right, well, can you try to fix mine? Okay, great. So I sent it in, and he's like, I'm going to put it in the garbage because it was so many pieces, and it hit hard. It like literally like smashed.
Oh dear.
So I thought to myself, I'm like, well, shit. if there's no if there's nothing on the market, I'm gonna make one.
Shark Tank opportunity.
So yeah, yeah. Well, I just went ahead and did it all myself. So, but I've worked on it probably 10 hours a day for the last year and a half. I think it's been over a year and a half that I've been chipping away at it. So I finally have it in my grasp, but and you can actually buy it at my friend Tim's store, and he was actually a guest on my podcast a couple years ago.
Tim Payne?
Flash Gear, Tim Payne, you know Tim Payne.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he does, his Facebook group is the Speedlight Fundamentals, a beginner's guide to off-camera flash, speedlights and whatnot. So he has a store, flashgear.net, and as soon as my final product was done, he bought a bunch and put them in his store. So, it's been pretty awesome.
Awesome.
Pretty awesome kind of dealing with that. So then beyond that, I actually reached out to B&H, and I'm halfway through the process of getting it on their website.
Holy cow. That is
So,
awesome.
so that's been pretty exciting. But when I say this project has been like 24/7, like it's been 24/7. Like it's been endless amounts of, I had to up my insurance policy to be a $5 million policy, and, endless amounts of paperwork and this and that and the other thing. And I've been doing it just nonstop. But, now here I am. I'm trying to, keep up. I'm trying to juggle all the balls.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's been really hard. It's been really hard because, I'm still taking pictures, and I work 1 day a week. I'm a sign language interpreter at a college. And so I'm still doing that on Tuesdays, and, and then dealing with my kids, just being with them and doing things with them and
Everyday
whatnot.
life. Yeah.
Just every day, every day, every day. But I'm super excited that I now have something for sale somewhere.
Yeah, that's
I feel like such a big girl. If you want to check it out, so go to Tim Payne's website, which is www.flashgear.net / or / I don't know which slash it is, / I guess. And then just type in the word flashback, one word, FLASHBACK, flashback, and have a look at this. So it's been, I've been using my prototype, and now that the real deal is here, I've been using that, but I've been using it a year and a half. No joke, my light falls over all the time. And now it falls backwards, and it just has a bumper now. It just falls and goes boing, and then I laugh and laugh.
Check that out. And you know what? That definitely, you should post that in the box group too, because again, just like you had said earlier, if you've experienced, there is a high probability
that someone else has.
People have.
Yeah, but normally my daughter is my assistant, so if I'm shooting, whatever, I have her just standing. I did my back to school mini sessions or whatever, and I just have her standing and holding my light and looking at her phone, but just holding it.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, either she's not available, or maybe she takes her hand off of the light stand to like respond to Snapchat or something. I don't know, whatever. And inevitably she lets go, the light falls over. But now it doesn't smash in a million pieces.
Fall all at once. Well,
it can fall all at once. So yeah, it fell one time on gravel. I was doing my prom mini shoots last year, and because our prom was canceled, so I was like, well, fuck that. We're gonna have pictures, or we're gonna have memories. Damn it,
right?
Yeah. If I have to fake all the memories all over, we're having pictures of prom pictures, whatever. But my light fell over, and I'm like, Katie, and she just looked at me, and she did, the emoji where the woman has the hand in the hair, like,
yeah,
what? And I was like, okay, whatever.
You're safe, Mom. It has a flashback.
Mom, it's fine. And it was fine. Like my light, because people are like, I tell people all the time, it's like having a case on your phone. Like if you're going to take your phone and smash it to the ground and, whatever, that could it break? Yes. Does it give it a fighting chance? Yes.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
So, same thing, but yeah, so far it's, been going pretty well.
Well, that's awesome. Definitely post that in the group because that,
I will share that in the group. So just as a reminder, it's in quotes in the box with quotes around in the box. Education in the box. Education is Jen's group.
yeah.
Where I'm kind of a silent admin. I'm there just to like if there's so many bots I noticed in my mini session group. There's people all the time trying to sell random sex toys or
Oh, I don't think we've had that.
oh lordy, we get so many. We get so many. One thing you have to be careful of is when people ask request to join the group, if their Facebook account was just made yesterday,
Yeah, there's that's a
that's a bot.
yeah.
That's a bot. You get deleted, whatever. But and I'm careful who I let in. I let in probably 30 people a day, and I go through and I'm careful. But people sneak in all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
bots, whatever, get accepted in all the time accidentally, whatever. And they're like, all these Asian sex dolls or whatever. And I'm always like, oh my god, like delete. But
Quite frustrating.
yeah, I mean, it's quite hilarious. But I'm always like, oh my god. Anyway, so all right, so we should we're at an hour here, so we should say goodbye. But yeah, definitely check out Jen's Facebook group and Jen's YouTube channel and Jen's Etsy store and all the things, and use your coupon. And my YouTube channel is Kirsten PG1, and my Etsy store is Dance Tog. And I do have coupons floating around, but they're on my tutorials. You have to go. I don't know what they are off the top of my head. I think the rotten Easter eggs one is still still active. I haven't deactivated my Easter coupon yet, but definitely check out all the things and request to join the groups, and we'll see you there.
Yeah, definitely. It's time to learn something new for fun, right? So,
It's time to learn something new. It's definitely it is fun,
yeah,
and I'm gonna post on my Facebook Sleeping on the Job podcast Facebook group and Instagram page. I will show some of my favorite box uh, images so you can get the idea of how they all interact.
fantastic.
Cool. All right, Jen, it
Thanks
was
for
nice
having me
talking.
on.
Yeah, thank you for being available. I appreciate it.
You are very welcome anytime.
Okay.
And you guys, everyone, have a good, well, whatever day you're listening to. It's weekend here for me. So have a good weekend or week or whatever. Just have a good
Yeah,
day.
yeah. I don't keep track of the days now that we're on.
Yeah, right?
It's all the same to me. So, all right, I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.